Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhu. Thai Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 11, Lord Ramachandra rules the world. Text number 27. Prasada Gopura Sabha Chaitya Deva Grihadishu Vinyasta Hema Kalashai Pataka Bhischa Manditam Prasada Gopura Sabha Chaitya Deva Grihadishu Vinyasta Hena Kalashai Pataka Bhischa Manditam Prasada Gopura Sabha Chaitya Deva Grihadishu Vinyasta Hema Kalashai Pataka Bhischa Manditam. Sadaho Sada Gopura Sabha Sadeva Grihadishu Vaishnavis. Chaitya Deva Grihadishu Vinyasta Hema Kalasai Pataka Bhischa Manditam. Prasada in palaces, Gopura, palace gates, Sabha, assembly houses, Chaitya, raised platforms, Deva Griha, temples wherein deities are worshipped, Adishu, and so on. Vinyasta, placed. Hema Kalashai, with golden water pots. Pataka Bhi, by flags. Cha, also. Manditam, bedecked. Translation. So there's no purport for this translation. And for the remainder of the chapter also there's no purport. So I'm just going to read through. So you'll have to hear attentively. In the 6th verse of the next chapter there's a purport. So we'll make our way there. Translation. The palaces, the palace gates, the assembly houses, the platforms for meeting places, the temples, and all such places were decorated with golden water pots and bedecked with various types of flags. Text number 28. Pugai savrintae rambhabi patikabi suvasasam adarai amshukai sragbhi grita kautuka toranam. Wherever Lord Ramachandra visited, auspicious welcome gates were constructed with banana trees, betel nuts, full of flowers and fruits. The gates were decorated with various flags made of colorful cloth with tapestries, mirrors, and garlands. Text 29. Tam upeyus tatra tatra paura arhanapanaya ashisho yuyujur deva pahi mam prak tvayodritam. Translation. Wherever Lord Ramachandra visited, the people approached him with paraphernalia of worship and begged the Lord's blessings. O Lord, they said, as you rescued the earth from the bottom of the sea in your incarnation as a boar, may you now maintain it. Thus we beg your blessings. Text 30. Tata praja vikshya patim chiragatam didrikshayo trishta grihastriyo nara aruya haramyani aravindalochanam atripta netra kusumair avakiran. Translation. Thereafter, not having seen the Lord for a long time, the citizens, both men and women, being very eager to see him, left their homes and got up on the roofs of the palaces. Being incompletely satiated with seeing the face of the lotus-eyed Lord Ramachandra, they showered flowers upon him. Text 31 to 34. Thereafter, Lord Ramachandra entered the palace of his forefathers. Within the palace were various treasures and valuable wardrobes. The sitting places on the two sides of the entrance door were made of coral. The yards were surrounded by pillars of Vaidurya money. The floor was made of highly polished Marakata money, and the foundation was made of marble, not concrete. It was marble foundation. The entire palace was decorated with flags and garlands and bedecked with valuable stones, shining with a celestial effulgence. The palace was fully decorated with pearls and surrounded by lamps and incense. The men and women within the palace all resembled demigods and were decorated with various ornaments which seemed beautiful because of being placed on their bodies. Text 35. Tasmin sa Bhagavan Ramaha snigdhaya priyayeshtaya reme svarama dhiranam rishabha sitaya kila. Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chief of the learned scholars, resided in that palace with his pleasure potency, Mother Sita, and enjoyed complete peace. Text 36. Bubuje cha yatha kalam kamam dharmam apidayan varsha pugan bahunrinam abhidya tangrihi pallava. Without transgressing the religious principles, Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet are worshipped by devotees in meditation, enjoyed with all the paraphernalia of transcendental pleasure for as long as he needed. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 11th chapter of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, entitled Lord Ramachandra Rules the World. Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is the dynasty of Kusha, the son of Ramachandra, Lord Ramachandra, sorry. There's a summary here, so I'll read that. Chapter summary. This chapter describes the dynasty of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramachandra. The members of this dynasty are descendants of Shashada, the son of Maharaj Ikshvaku. Following in the genealogical table of Lord Ramachandra's dynasty, Kusha, the Lord's son, was followed consecutively by Atiti, Nishada, Nabha, Pundarika, Shemadhanva, Devanika, Aniha, Pariyatra, Balasthala, Vajranabha, Sagana, and Vidriti. These personalities ruled the world. From Vidriti came Hiranyabha, who later became the disciple of Jaimini and propounded the system of mystic yoga in which Yajnavalkya was initiated. Following in this dynasty were Pushpa, Dhruva Sandhi, Sudarshan, Agni Varna, Sigra, and Maru. Maru attained full perfection in the practice of yoga, and he still lives in the village of Kalapa. At the end of this age of Kali, he will revive the dynasty of the sun god. Next in the dynasty were Prashuruta, Sandhi, Amarshana, Mahasvan, Vishwabahu, Prasenajit, Takshaka, and Brihadbala, who was later killed by Abhimanyu. Shukdev Goswami said that these were all kings who had passed away. The future descendants of Brihadbala will be Brihadrana, Urukriya, Vatsavridha, Prativyoma, Bhanu, Divaka, Sahadev, Brihadashva, Bhanuman, Pratikshva, Supratika, Marudeva, Sunakshatra, Pushkara, Antariksha, Sutapa, Amitrajit, Brihadraja, Barhi, Kritanjaya, Rananjaya, Sanjaya, Sakya, Sudhodha, Langala, Prasenajit, Kashudraka, Ranaka, Suratha, and Sumitra. All of them will become kings, one after another. Sumitra, coming in this age of Kali, will be the last king in the Ikshvaku dynasty. After him, the dynasty will be extinguished. Text 1. Shukdev Goswami said, the son of Ramachandra was Kusha. The son of Kusha was Atiti. The son of Atiti was Nishada. And the son of Nishada was Nabha. The son of Nabha was Pundarik. And from Pundarik came a son named Shemadhanva. Text 2. The son of Shemadhanva was Devanika. Devanika's son was Aniha. Aniha's son was Pariyatra. And Pariyatra's son was Balasthala. The son of Balasthala was Vajranabha, who was said to have been born from the effulgence of the sun god. Text 3-4. The son of Vajranabha was Sagana, and his son was Vidriti. The son of Vidriti was Hiranyabha, who became a disciple of Jaimini and became a great acharya of mystic yoga. It is from Hiranyabha that the great saint Yajnavalkya learned the highly elevated system of mystic yoga known as Adhyatma Yoga, which can loosen the knots of material attachment in the heart. Almost there. Text 5. The son of Hiranyabha was Pushpa, and the son of Pushpa was Dhruvasandhi. The son of Dhruvasandhi was Sudarshan, whose son was Agnivarna. The son of Agnivarna was named Shigra, and his son was Maru. Text number 6. So asavaste yoga siddha kalapa gramam astita kalerante suryavamsham nashtam bhava yata puna. Translation. Having achieved perfection in the power of mystic yoga, Maru still lives in a place known as Kalapagram. At the end of Kali Yuga, he will revive the lost Surya dynasty by begetting a son. Purport. At least 5,000 years ago, Srila Shukdev Goswami ascertained the existence of Maru in Kalapagram and said that Maru, having achieved a Yoga Siddha body, would continue to exist until the end of Kali Yuga, which is calculated to be 432,000 years. Such is the perfection of mystic yoga. By controlling the breath, the perfect yogi can continue his life for as long as he likes. Sometimes we hear from the Vedic literature that some personalities from the Vedic age, such as Vyasadeva and Ashwatthama, are still living. Here we understand that Maru is also still living. We are sometimes surprised that a mortal body can live for such a long time. The explanation of this longevity is given here by the word Yoga Siddha. If one becomes perfect in the practice of yoga, he can live as long as he likes. The demonstration of some trifling Yoga Siddha does not constitute perfection. Here is a factual example of perfection. A Yoga Siddha can live as long as he likes. Om Jnanatimanasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurunurdamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in the previous chapter, in text number 24, Parikshit Maharaj asked Shukdev Goswami 3 questions. Number 1, how did the Lord, referring to Lord Ramachandra, how did he conduct himself? 2, how did he behave with his brothers? 3, how did his brothers and the Ayodhya Vasis, the citizens, how did they treat him? So in his response, we heard the response in the last chapter. So text 26 to 28, Lord Ram, he inspected Ayodhya. He went around to see how things were. And his governance and rule is also described. Described how in text 29 to 30, people, they eagerly approached him. The citizens, they approached him to seek the blessings and to take shelter of the Lord and to satisfy their desire of reuniting with him. And then Lord Ramachandra entered his palace in text 31 to 35. And in the final verse, we heard how he was enjoying transcendental pleasure. So then that leads us to today's verse, which is number 7 with the purport. The descendants of Lord Ram's son, Kusha, have been described. So very long lineage there. It was hard to follow also, can be hard to follow, even if we are attentive. Very long lineage, but that's described there because it is a very potent spiritual lineage. That's why it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. They are spiritually very significant personalities. And then here today, in this verse, we hear about Maru. Maru is still living somewhere. So Shukdev Goswami, at least for 5,000 years he's been around. And he's been prophesied to live another 427,000 years. The oldest person who has lived on this earth that is recorded and modern science is verified is Jean Calment of France. She has lived 122 years and 164 days. But here we can see that Maru is still living. He has broken the record. 5,000 years and counting, still going strong. It's just the beginning. So we can see that it is possible to live such a long life, which is unknown to modern man. Maybe they should be given this purport. They should be given a copy of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam so they can do some research and find out this person, go on an expedition in the Himalayas, send a lot of parties, and try to find Maru and ask him, what's the secret of your long life? And then he'll say, the secret of my long life is pranayam. So that is what the secret of such a long life is. If anyone wants to live a very long time, you have to do yoga, if you want to live. So that longevity comes through breath control, which is one of the limbs of yoga. Yam, niyam, asan, right? Pranayam, right? And it goes on. So we know the yoga ladder. So there's the do's, don'ts, there's the hatha yoga, and then there is pranayam. In pranayam, it is about controlling the breath. And that is explained very nicely in the Bhagavad Gita also. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter and 29th verse, Krishna explains this process of longevity. He says, Apane juvati pranam, prane apanam tathapare, pranapana gati rudva, pranayam, parayana, appare niyatahara, pranan praneshu juvati. So Krishna actually explains this process of yoga in the 4th chapter. He says, still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. So here Krishna is explaining like the end goal of pranayam And he's summarizing what pranayama is about. And Srila Prabhupada, he elaborates that in the purport. We'll read the purport partially. Prabhupada says, the system of yoga for controlling the breathing process is called pranayama. So before pranayama, there's hatha yoga. In hatha yoga, one learns how to sit. How to sit, not just sit, but you have to sit with a straight spine, with your neck straight. And you have to sit for a very long time. So in hatha yoga, they do various asanas. Anyone done hatha yoga? I'm sure most of you have gone to a yoga class, right? So in yoga classes, you go for a yoga class, they'll teach you hatha yoga. And but the idea behind that is to be able to sit down, and then practice meditation. But for most people, it just goes as far as doing the exercise, and most people do it so they feel physically good and mentally good, which there's nothing wrong in that. All of these processes are recommended for controlling the senses and for advancement in spiritual realization. So ultimately, that's the purpose of yoga. The purpose of yoga is to control the senses. So if you're sitting down for long periods of time, automatically your senses will be controlled to a degree because you're not active. You're sitting in one place. And then if one can do that sufficiently, then the practice involves controlling the airs within the body so as to reverse the directions of their passage. So in pranayama, that's what they're trying to do. A yogi is trying to control the incoming and outgoing breath, right? And Prabhupada says, the apana air goes downward and the prana air goes up. The pranayama yogi practices breathing the opposite way until the currents are neutralized into puraka, equilibrium. Offering the exhaled breath into the inhaled breath is called rechaka. When both air currents are completely stopped, one is said to be in kumbhaka yoga. By practice of kumbhaka yoga, one can increase the duration of life for perfection in spiritual realization. So by coming to kumbhaka yoga, achieving that state, then one can live a very long life. So here we see that Maru, he had reached the stage of kumbhaka yoga. So he had controlled his breathing, and the breathing was in a state of equilibrium. And therefore he could extend his life. He could live a long life. So you might be wondering then, if I'm running a lot or cycling a lot, am I going to live? If I'm breathing very fast by exercising, am I going to live a short life? Not really. You'll live the average life, but certainly you won't live. You won't go the distance. As when it like comparing Maruka. Maru, sorry. In comparison to him, you won't go that distance, but you can still live a very good, healthy, long life as compared by material standards. Sometimes devotees think, okay, you control your breathing, then you don't exercise. But actually, we need to have a degree of exercise so we keep ourselves fit. And here also, the yogi extends their life so they can engage themselves in the practice of spiritual realization to achieve perfection. So back in the day, many people were practicing Ashtanga yoga. So back in the day, that was the culture. So that is one way of achieving self-realization, as Krishna explains. But it is the long route. It is like a detour. It's like you're going to the 10th level of a 100th level in a building, or you're walking up the stairs. It's not the direct way because it involves an artificial process. Because you have to artificially restrain your senses. The process is not artificial, but you have to artificially restrain your senses. And you have to use your own. You need a very strong mind and strong intelligence to control your senses. So, and naturally you need a very favorable environment to do that. So for the yogis, the favorable environment was going in a forest. Because in the forest, the average Joe is not there. You're not going to get any phone calls. Even today, you go deep in the forest, you won't get a signal, right? You take your phone, you need a satellite phone there to make contact with the world. So they would go to the forest. The average Joe is not there to harass them. And the environment is very tranquil. They have to be fearless from the wildlife and animals. And then they have to practice yoga for a long time. And they have to mentally control their senses. They have to have a very strong mind and intelligence, and very strong desire. They do that, and it's very difficult, because in this world there's so many temptations. It's very difficult to do that. We all succumb to various temptations easily. So for a yogi also it's very difficult. And the reason they prolong their life is so they can practice Ashtanga Yoga, because it takes a while to achieve perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. Whereas Bhakti Yoga, the perfection is very quick. And in Ashtanga Yoga, you have to do it for a long time. And therefore, they try to prolong their life, not for sense gratification. Most people, they try to prolong their life by material means so they can enjoy in this world. Right? That's why most people want to live a long life. So they can enjoy. You must be thinking, what's wrong with enjoying? The problem is with material enjoyment is it binds us in the cycle of birth and death, because there is karma. So as we enjoy, we are accruing karma, and that karma keeps us here in this material world. So the yogis would therefore restrict the enjoyment and go to such a place and artificially try to control their senses, which is, as Arjuna says, very difficult to do. In the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, after Krishna described the process of Ashtanga Yoga, Arjuna said, actually it's easier for me to control the wind. So Arjuna said that, and Arjuna is a great warrior. As you know, it's very difficult to control the wind. There's, I think, what year was it? There was a city, like the United States, they get a lot of twisters, tornadoes. There was a town, Javelin, in, I think, in the 1990s. This is during Obama's presidency, so in the 2000s. People were used to a tornado, but one day this tornado came, was so powerful, it went over the town of Javelin, and the entire town was destroyed. It was like a war zone in 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes. Entire town was destroyed by this strong wind. So we see how powerful nature can be. And it is very difficult we can't control nature. So we can put early warning systems to protect ourselves. But Arjuna said, for me it's easier to control the wind, but it's harder for me to control my own mind. So he said, by this process of yoga that you have described, I find it much more difficult to control my mind. Rather, I can control the wind. He was such a powerful warrior who could actually control the wind. Extremely, that tells you the caliber of Arjuna. So yes, it's very difficult, but in Bhakti Yoga, it is much easier. The process of Bhakti Yoga is much easier. And even Kapila Muni, he explains to his mother, Devahuti, the process of this yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. He explains to her this process of yoga in the 4th canto. In the 3rd canto, he explains the instructions on the execution of devotional service. So there he explains to her how to practice this yoga. So some of the prerequisites are, as Krishna also explains in the Bhagavad Gita, this is if you want to perform this yoga, right? You make up your mind after this. So he's saying one should cease performing first you have to give up conventional religious practices. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Puja, yagya, all these common ones. You have to give that up. Demigod worship. Then you have to eat very frugally. Little bit. Not much prasadam. Just a little bit. Just enough. Maybe some nuts and fruits. You have to go on a raw diet. And then you have to live a secluded life. You have to remain secluded. So go to the forest, go to the Yara ranges. And then there you have to practice non-violence. You can't kill the animals for food, right? You can't do hunting and then eat them. So you have to practice non-violence. Truthfulness, that's important. And should avoid thieving, no theft. And be satisfied with possessing as much as he needs for his maintenance. So and then also abstain from sex life. So no married life, no girlfriend, no boyfriend. Perform austerity. Do Ashtanga yoga, pranayam, perform austerity. Live very austerely. And you have to be clean on top of that while being in the forest. Can't be moochi. You have to take a bath in the river, and the water will be cold, most likely. So you have to be clean. And then study the Vedas and worship the Supreme Lord. And then on top of that, you have to practice silence. You have to practice Mauna Vrata. It's like, what are those retreats called? Vipassana retreat? Yeah? You go on silent retreat, right? For 7 days. But now you have to do it for a number of years. Very difficult. Vipassana is hard enough. Imagine going for a number of years. You're practicing silence. Very difficult. Acquire steadiness by practicing different yogic postures. So you have to have mastery of yoga and control the breathing of the vital air. Mastery of your breath work. And then, withdraw the senses from the sense objects and thus concentrate the mind on the heart. So this is the process. And then in the next verse he says, fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Lord is called samadhi. So after doing all that, then you have to meditate on Krishna. After doing all of this, then you come to absorption on the Lord's form. But in Krishna consciousness, we can go straight there. We look at the deity and you can absorb yourself by following the regulated process of Krishna consciousness. So, and even we see Prithu Maharaj, he had a yogic departure. So, Prithu Maharaj, so after he fulfilled, as you know, he fulfilled his duties as a righteous king. He's like a Shaktavesh avatar. He retired to the forest with his wife, Queen Archi, right? And there, again, he performed Ashtanga yoga. And the final stages of that yoga process are explained. Like he did Pratyahar, he was able to withdraw his senses. Then he went into dhyan, meditation, and ultimately into samadhi. So this is how back then people would quit their body. We have very different time. So what's the relevance of yoga in this age? Here we are sitting in 2025. This sounds all very irrelevant. So what's the relevance of yoga in Kali Yuga? So Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Mam cha avya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. He says, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of nature and comes to the level of Brahman. So Krishna has made the process of Krishna consciousness or yoga much more accessible in this day and age of Kali. Because this day and age of Kali is a very disturbed age. There's a lot of disturbance everywhere. Everywhere there's disturbance. There's disturbance in society, nationally. There's war going on. There's disturbance in spiritual communities. There is disturbance maybe in our home, in our mind. There's disturbance everywhere, in the workplace. So we see there's problems everywhere. However, the process of Krishna consciousness is very accessible. Krishna has made it very accessible. And in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam also it is said, in the 12th canto, 3rd chapter, 52nd verse, Krite yadhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato makhai dvapare paricharyayam kalautad dhari kirtanad. So the perfection that was achieved in Satya Yuga through meditation on Lord Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by doing all these big yagyas. Big, back then they would do very big yagyas. Nothing in comparison to today's yagyas. So they would be like state-sponsored yagyas, and massive amounts of ghee, very big, very elaborate. All these very expert priests did these yagyas, chanted mantras in perfection. They could invoke the demigod's presence. They would actually be there. So there was a lot of expertise, and it required a lot of resources. In Dvapara Yuga was worshipping the Lord's lotus feet through temple worship. So very elaborate temple worship, much more elaborate than what we do, far more elaborate. So in South India there's some temples, they do very elaborate deity worship. But back then was next level. So we can just imagine. And then in Kali Yuga, all that benefit can be achieved just by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So by chanting the holy names, we can get all of that plus much more. And the Kali Yuga is very degraded, as explained in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. It says, Atakalau tapo yoga vidya yagya dikat kriya sangha bhavanti na krita kushalair api dehi bhi. So in this Purana it said, in the age of Kali, any practice of tapasya, yoga, deity worship, sacrifice and so on, they can't be properly carried out, even by the most expert embodied souls. So, all these things, we can't do it to that level of expertise, right? And we don't chant the mantras in the rhythm and meter like what was chanted before. It's like mine is totally, no unrecognizable, right? So, but we can get the essence of all that if we approach the Lord directly, right? And if we chant the holy names. And even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar, Nam Hayata Hay Sarva Jagat Nishtar. So in the age of Kali, the holy name of Krishna, the holy name is the incarnation of Lord Krishna, it is said. It's not different from Krishna. Simply by chanting the holy name, we associate with Krishna directly. And anyone who does this is delivered. So in this day and age, this is the process of deliverance. It is through the process of Nam Sankirtan. It is through the process of Kirtan. By the process of Kirtan, chanting the Maha Mantra, anyone can be delivered. And this is very accessible. Even a child can do it. Right? Whereas for a disabled person, Ashtanga Yoga is impossible. They can't. A person who has disability, they can't do it. What's the then hope for them? But even a mentally unstable person can chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Anyone can do it. To do it in a regulated fashion, okay, that's going to take some more discipline. But this anyone can chant. And that's why the process of Harinam Sankirtan has been expounded by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for this day and age. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he revived the Sankirtan movement 500 years ago in Mayapur, Navadvip. And since then, it has spread all over the globe. And Krishna also says, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhridavrata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. So Krishna says, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness, is to chant the Lord's glories. So chanting the Lord's glories in the form of the Maha Mantra, but also then chanting the Lord's glories by reading Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and teaching and sharing it with others. So when we are doing that, then we are following this process of Krishna consciousness. To one's capacity, of course, and according to one's circumstances. It's not, just because one person is doing this, you can't do what the other person is doing, right? Everyone's circumstances are different. And in Kali Yuga, we can see that you don't need any qualification to chant these names. Whereas in previous yugas, to practice the process of Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, we discussed the prerequisites for Ashtanga Yoga. In Kali Yuga, there's none of those prerequisites. So even the most fallen person can chant this mantra and transform their life. And we have seen that so many people come here from various backgrounds and various bad habits. But by chanting this mantra for some time, we see there is transformation in their heart. And that is manifest in their lifestyle. So in course of time, we see their lifestyle changes for the better. They give up smoking, eating meat, right? So before I came, I would smoke a little bit, sometimes, not much. But by chanting, I was eating meat also, consuming alcohol. But by chanting this mantra and associating with devotees, I lost the desire to do those things. And this has happened with practically all of us, right? So all of us sitting here have our past. And we've seen people, they have also transformed themselves. So many others who might have worse habits than us. We've seen transformation in them. So much so that some are now teachers and big personalities also. We can see that extreme transformation. And we see that in the lives of Jagai and Madhai. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had instructed Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur to spread the holy names. So Lord Nityananda would go on Harinam Sankirtan. And he would do that every day. And one time he went out, he came across Jagai and Madhai. So Jagai and Madhai were at that time, the antithesis of like a devotee, right? So they were the exact opposite. They were like the lowest of the low, as bad as it gets. So they were murderers, said rapists, they were very foul language, very disrespectful. By even material standards, they were looked down by material standards as well. So when Lord Nityananda came across them, he implored them, please chant the name of the Lord. Please chant the name of Lord Gauranga. Chant the Maha Mantra. And then it was Madhai who was drunk. So as most of them are, they were high. Probably at that time meth and ice wasn't there. They were drunk on alcohol, most probably, right? Today's types of heavy drugs were not there, but they were drunk nonetheless. So Madhai was drunk and he got upset. This is like, you're going on Harinam and then you stop and then you fall at someone's feet and say, like a rogue, can you chant? And if they're a rogue, and most likely you know what their reaction will be. they're going to yell some profanities and they might hit you also. So that's what happened. So when Madhai approached Lord Nityananda approached Madhai, Jagai and Madhai got very agitated. He got very upset, and he was arrogant. So he struck Lord Nityananda. He hit him. How did he hit him? With a pot. Okay, yeah. So he hit a pot on Lord's head, right? So he hit a pot. The pots were strong back then, probably made of some strong metal. So he hit the Lord, and there was blood coming. So Lord Nityananda didn't get offended. But when the news got to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was enraged that Lord Nityananda has been offended by violence. So then Lord Chaitanya immediately went to the site to punish Madhai by chopping his head off with his Sudarshan Chakra. And then Lord Nityananda, he implored to Lord Chaitanya that your name is Patita Pavana, right? You're the deliverer of the fallen. So you need to live up to your name by sparing him, by showing him mercy. That the holy name, that you're the most, you're the deliverer of the fallen, the most compassionate. So then Lord Chaitanya told him, he apologized to Lord Nityananda and chant the holy names. So then when he said that, there's some transformation in the heart, and he had heard the holy names also. So there was some transformation, and he apologized, and he started chanting, and there was a huge transformation. That they became devotees, so they were totally transformed. They went from like one extreme to the other extreme, and people would come and see them. People were shocked to see the level of transformation they had. So this is the potency of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Prabhupada, when he came to America alone, single-handedly started the movement, and he didn't have much support and resources. So as you know, Prabhupada, by Krishna's arrangement, ended up in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. So there, that was a rough neighborhood. You know, like in every city there are rough neighborhoods. Even a suburb might have certain pockets. There's a bit public housing there, and those streets are very rough. One time where was I? I was in country New South Wales. I was in Albury, yeah. I was driving through a neighborhood, and there I saw this, oh man, there was some rough characters hanging out there. And so I could see that the street was very rough. That whole area was very shady. So there's some rough neighborhoods. Prabhupada ended up there. And over there, he had to deal with what he was given. So then he had these people who were high on whatever drugs were at that time, marijuana or whatever they were taking. So they were high on that, and he worked with them. He gave them the holy name. But just by doing that, they transformed. There was a huge transformation, that they gave up that LSD. Yeah, it was LSD at that time. So at that time, people were taking LSD. So they gave up LSD, and they stopped alcohol, they stopped smoking, they shaved their heads, and they became preachers. So that is the potency of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is what it can do. And if we keep chanting, then we can eventually also come out of the cycle of birth and death and achieve Krishna Prema. So that's just the beginning, but it goes much further than that. So in Kali Yuga, no pranayam or mystic yoga is required. We can just chant the Hare Krishna mantra, follow the process of Krishna consciousness by chanting our rounds, engaging in some service, and sharing the holy name with others. And in doing so, we get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. That's why there's so many kirtan programs, like we also do in the city. We do kirtan programs, and people come. In Fitzroy, people come there, have no background, no understanding. It is coming for an experience. People are just coming, some people just come, oh, I'm just going for something different. Yes, last week I went for jazz, or this, and now I'll go for kirtan. It's music. And some people come just to feel relaxed and peaceful. Surprisingly, it's not unsurprisingly, it's mostly women. Men are not so interested. It's hard to attract the Western men. So they come and then they feel peaceful. They're coming for that. But then chanting, they feel touched. And slowly, if they keep coming regularly, we see some transformation happening in their lives. So the holy name is the supreme purifier. And we can say that the Shastra also reveals timeless truths and divine plan across many years, or across decades or yugas also. Here it is said that Maru will keep living. It's like there's a prophecy. He will live till the end of Kali Yuga, and he will revive the Sun dynasty, the Surya dynasty. He's going to revive that. Vyasadeva also, Srila Vyasadeva, we know in the first canto, when he sat down by the banks of the river after bathing and doing his morning sadhana, he sat down in meditation. He could foresee what was to come by his transcendental vision. Vyasadeva could foresee. He could see the Kali Yuga is about to come and what Kali Yuga is going to be like. Back then he was able to have that vision. He could see that everything will get deteriorated in Kali Yuga. We can see water is deteriorated. We have to purify that. In Australia, it's still pretty good, but in many, like in India, the quality of water is not good. The air is deteriorated. The food is deteriorated. There's so much pesticides and so much stuff we have put, so it's not very potent. There's so much pollution. Then, on a personal level, you could see people's faith will be deteriorated. So today we are living in a very faithless environment. People have no faith in God, especially in countries like Australia and New Zealand, and many like Scandinavian countries also, European countries. People don't have much faith in God. Many people are agnostic. So all that he could see, people will become faithless. They'll have a short duration of life. People's duration they live. If someone can hit 90 now, it's like, oh wow, you're at 90. It's like a big achievement. But so we don't live very long because the environment is not pure. And you could see that people will become impatient. There's so much road rage and people are very impatient. And people will lack any sattva gun. They'll become very rajasic and tamasic. He could foresee all of this. People will take shelter of drinking, smoking, eating meat, having bad habits. Earlier this was unheard of. This was totally unheard of. But now it's the norm. Now it's unheard of if someone is not doing that. They're like, wow, how can you do that? How can you live such a clean life? Or why are you doing it, some people say. Why are you a vegetarian? So it's for the average Australian, it's like, I think most people now recognize the importance of a plant-based lifestyle, but yes, alcohol certainly, like, why, A little bit is not bad, right? In moderation. But actually these are unclean habits because they make us unclean, asuchi. But he could see all this. And because people are engaging in these things, it is difficult to practice genuine spiritual life. But by chanting the Maha Mantra and associating with like-minded devotees, then one can come out of all this and come onto the spiritual platform. And Mahaprabhu also predicted the future. He said, Prithivite ache nagaradigram sarvatra prachara hoibe moranam. So Mahaprabhu said, in every town and village, my holy name will be heard. My holy name will be chanted and heard. When we can see this prophecy coming true. Today the holy name has been spread. We see like the efforts of Devanath Giridhari Prabhu and others. They are spreading the holy names in so many places. They go to so many suburbs, they go to various country towns, and like that they are sharing the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and they're bringing the prophecy. That prophecy is manifesting itself. We can see some devotees are carrying on the baton, and this movement is spreading, and it will spread because it's the prophecy of the Lord. So here there's a prophecy made that Maru will live till the end of Kali Yuga. He's going to be around for a long time. So if you're in the Himalayas, you can look out for him and say hello, g'day. So we'll end here. See if you have any questions or comments. Yes, Prabhuji.
So with chanting is so important, but looking after our health, physical health is really important, like doing exercise.
Yeah, because if we don't do that, then it's hard to chant. We can only chant if we have this body. So if we are not in the human body, how can you chant? Right? Unless you're like blessed by Lord Mahaprabhu. When he was going through the Jharikanda forest, he saw the wildlife, and he chanted the holy names, and by his potency, they were transformed and they were chanting and dancing in ecstasy, which is generally unheard of, right? Animals chanting. So it's very unusual. So to chant, we need a human body, and even in this human body, for most of us, we are not like Haridas Thakur or other advanced devotees. We need to have a healthy body. If there's too much pain somewhere in the body, all the attention goes there. I was having some back pain, and so I had to stop all my exercise for like a few months now, and there was so much attention going there. So there's a little bit of a distraction. If the mind is, that's why it's very important. And a lot of devotees don't do it. Most devotees don't do, to be frank, from my observation. And eating too much, eating way too much. Then we get sick because we are eating too much and we are not burning enough calories and we are not exercising the body. Then it leads to disease. Then disease starts to manifest in the body. And when there's disease, you don't feel good, and so much effort and time and effort goes in curing that. Then sometimes messages come, pray for such and such. Yeah, it's good, we should pray, and I will pray for everyone. But quite often it's neglect of health, right? And usually quite often it starts with neglecting health for a very long period of time. Just too much absorption, too much engagement in service, just doing service, and ignoring your body, looking after the body. But that is also part of bhakti, to look after your body. So you can be absorbed in doing so many bhakti vrikshas and this and that, but after some time your body will break down, and then it's very hard to do it. And we ask for prayers and we pray for everyone, but we need to take a proactive step of looking after ourselves. Extremely important. And Prabhupada, he would end his letters by saying, or start his letters, I hope this meets you in good health. Right? He would always open his letters like this. Because without good health, you cannot practice Krishna consciousness. You cannot practice bhakti. And then you feel bad, like I'm this in bed, or I can't do this. I used to do that before, and now I can't do it. You don't feel good also. And if you exercise, you feel good. It releases endorphins. You feel positive. You feel strong, and then you can do service for many years. Yeah, good question, Prabhu. Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Mataji's, any questions? No? All right. Thank you very much. Grantraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Vindadalaya Taksham Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Nandar Agom Higamaniya Vishesha Shobham
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Vajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Andani Yasa Sakale Driya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Vajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanstam Shri Rupam Chakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathantam Tvam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna,